All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our October meeting. Let's see, it is 6:32. I'm going to go ahead and get started with roll. So is Joe here?
Yes.
Riley?
Here.
Kendrick?
Here.
Amanda?
Here.
Colin Duncan?
Here.
Bella? Michael Finnegan? Colin Folsom?
Here.
Nick Folsom?
Here.
I'm not sure if you got me, but I'm here.
Okay. Levi? Jasmine?
Here.
Benjamin?
Here.
Matthew?
Here.
Michael?
Here.
Ella?
Here.
Catherine?
Here.
Tej?
Here.
Tyler?
Here.
Jacob, I think that's supposed to say Jared, right?
Yeah, here it's Jared.
Cool. Rithi?
Here.
Jack?
Here.
Connor?
Here.
And Rohan?
I'm here.
Okay. And Sinjin? All right, so can everyone take a quick look at our discussion items for tonight and make sure there's nothing that you think we are missing or that we need to talk about. We'll be talking a lot about our work plan tonight, getting everything finalized. All right, I don't think we have anyone to public comment. Is that correct, Kevin?
Doesn't sound like it.
All right, perfect. All right, we're going to move on to our first discussion item, which is a Parks, Recreation, Open Space, and Trails Master Plan. Mike is going to be leading that discussion. So Mike, take it away.
Sure. Kevin, I didn't know if you had any preamble to this or not.
I don't. The group does know about the master plan. A lot of them have been already taking the survey. And by the way, I'll add that link to the survey in our chat for any of you that have not taken the master plan for Parks, Recreation, Open Space, and Trails. And they all know that you're here, Mike, to walk us through a little bit more of that. So you can introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about the project and your best hopes for it, and guide us.
Sure. All right. Thank you so much. Hey, folks, I really appreciate the opportunity. I promise I won't take too much of your time. And I recognize that there are a lot of folks on the call. So I know it's sometimes a little difficult for me to ask questions of you all and then have you respond in such a large group virtually, but we'll do our best. As Kevin said, my name is Mike Svets. I'm a principal with Pros Consulting. Pros is a firm that does basically park and recreation consulting work for agencies all over the country. I myself am a recovering Parks and Recreation director. And so I'll date myself a little bit and say that I've kind of been in this world for, oh gosh, almost exactly 29 years now. I have two kids. One is a 21-year-old, just turned 21, and a daughter, that's my son. My daughter just turned 19. So I'm not that far removed from having lived, at least in the world of kind of understanding, the world of teenagers today, and potentially what you're looking for out of Parks and Recreation. And so I really, I think Kevin's kind of given you an overview. And for those of you who have taken the survey, I greatly appreciate that. And, even sharing it with your friends and family would be fantastic as well. It shouldn't take very long to complete, but at the same time, your input is really valuable. So I just really, from a Parks and Recreation standpoint, open space and trails, I think you all can appreciate the fact that they're meant to be used, and recognizing that Superior is a fairly small town with a small population, but also as part of a bigger region. It's really important for us to get the parks and the trails and the amenities in the system that appeal to all age groups, and regardless of kind of where you're at in your life. One thing that we do know about Parks and Recreation is the fact that your needs have a tendency to change over time. So for example, you may or may not know that usually by the time somebody turns 13 years of age, 85% of 13-year-olds have a tendency to drop out of team sports. That could be a skill set issue. That could be just an interest issue in doing other things. I think the one thing that when we think about Parks and Recreation, and I know sometimes it's hard to think about 10 years from now, but that's kind of the planning horizon of this plan. And so thinking about, what you want to do or what you think you would and your friends would like to do in the system today is critically important. But it's also kind of important to think about how you might use Parks and Recreation in 5 years differently than how you're using it now, or 10 years in terms of how you're using it now. And because the plan, as I mentioned, has a 10-year planning horizon. So though we want to do our very best to meet the needs of the community today, we also have to think about, the future as well. So I really, that's kind of my overview preamble of the project, why I'm in front of you today. I think it's important to recognize that, your voice is really critical. And you speak as leaders on the Youth Leadership Council. You speak in some cases on behalf of, some teens, your friends, and, you're kind of an ear to the ground, so to speak. So a couple of questions I have, and I'm not sure how you want to handle the answering of these, because I know it's somewhat difficult at times virtually to do this with, I think I see 26 different participants on. My very first question is, how do you use parks, recreation, open space, and trails in Superior now? Or maybe another way to ask it is, do you use any parks, recreation, open space, and trails in Superior now?
Mike, let me jump in real quick and just tell the whole group, we do have a good time allotted here for this question and answer time. And so I'm going to ask everyone to participate. If you have something to say, unmute yourself, maybe introduce yourself, and then give your answer. And as many of you as want to, please go for it. Like I said, we've got plenty of time for this exercise. You want to ask that one more time, Mike? Just
Yeah. So the question is really, what of, Superior Parks, Recreation, Open Space, and Trails do you use? Or if you don't use it, why don't you use it?
My name's Jack Ritter. I'm a senior here, and one park that I always use, it's not like a park, but the tennis courts. I'm always using it, but sometimes I have to like go to Monarch or Louisville because our courts we only have 4 of them, and during like the prime times, they're always busy.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Catherine Marcella, and I would say that I use the open space and trails a good amount, especially like Wildflower Park, Community Park, and some of the trails that are in Rock Creek South.
Okay. What specifically, maybe a follow-up question, what specifically draws you to those specific parks?
Well, I would say because there's a lot of open space to do a bunch of different activities. Like at Wildflower Park, you have a nice big open field if you wanted to play soccer or frisbee or that kind of thing. There's a lot of choices for what you can do when you go there.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jared Polson. I'm a junior, and I use the parks and trails a lot. I go out with my friends to the parks, specifically Community Park and Wildflower Park, just to like hang out, play some sports, have some food, talk. It's just like a nice, good place to hang out. And then me and my family, we go out and ride our bikes on the trails, specifically the Colton Trailhead. We love going out there. We go out there all the time and just get a good exercise in. So
great. Thank you.
I mountain bike a lot, so I mainly use just like the trails for mountain biking. But like I'll go on like Coyote Ridge and Rocky Flats and like Marshall Mesa and trails like that.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Rithi. One of the parks that I go to a lot would be Community Park because a lot of my friends live around there and because it's super close to like Safeway, so you can like get something and then just go to Community Park, and because it's just super big. Yeah.
So it's close to Safeway. Is it safe to say that you're frequenting Starbucks at Safeway?
Yeah, well, if I go to Starbucks, I'll just go to like that actual store rather than in Safeway. But in Safeway, they have like other stuff like candy and things like that.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
Hi. Oh, sorry.
Don't go. I'm Amanda, and I use Community Park a lot because I feel like it's a good way to connect with my friends, and it's a way to get like away from like schoolwork and stuff. And I use the trails a lot, and I like walk my dogs and go on walks with my family. And I feel like there's a lot of trails, so there's a lot of like different areas to go to, which is really fun.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Sinjin, and I use the outdoor basketball courts a bunch, just to practice, especially during the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic when I couldn't go to a indoor gym. Really useful.
Great, thank you.
I'm Michael, and I use Purple Park a lot, for like just biking around there and like taking my dog on walks just because it's really close to me.
Thanks. Awesome.
I'm Riley Carpenter. I'm a senior, and I guess I use the area recently because of COVID. I've been using the area between like Williams Field and then the park part of Community Park, those tables to work on some homework with friends in an outdoor setting. I would say that I know, like, I think there's maybe 2 or 3 of the like kind of picnic type tables, and I think that those, especially given the current situations, are useful things for people to get together, maybe have coffee, work on some homework just in that outdoor setting.
Great, thank you.
My name is Rohan, and I mainly use the trails, especially the trails around the Colton Trailhead for mountain biking on the weekends.
Okay. Great, thanks. For anybody else who, and I don't want you to feel bad. I mean, if you don't use parks, it's probably a good segue into my next question, which is really, so if you know, whether you use parks or not, the question is really simple. What would, or what elements or what things in parks would make you use them more often, or use them if you're currently not somebody who visits parks or trails or open space?
Well, I know it's not really something that can happen now, like during like the pandemic and everything, but if we did more stuff like how we did those movie nights at Community Park, that would kind of get me to go to like new parks and maybe see how they are.
Okay.
So my name is Jordan. I'm also a senior, like many others on this council. And I know Riley mentioned talked about working with friends at the park. And I would say that I think that's a good idea, but I don't know if there are enough tables and benches for there to be a significant number of people. I think there's like 2 or 3 tables at Community Park, and then maybe 1 at Purple Park, and that's about it.
Okay, great. I think the one thing that the town is doing, though, Jordan's comments probably need to be taken into consideration, but the town is looking at installing Wi-Fi in Community Park to kind of help facilitate that whole outdoor, you know, doing homework kind of thing. But to your point, Jordan, the Wi-Fi probably be only as good as the number of people that can use it in terms of having tables, benches, chairs, you know, to sit in to be able to do that kind of work. Anybody else? So, I mean, things that can be improved, things that would make you use parks more often. One thing that I know that is really important to you all is having access to power outlets to be able to plug thing that would enhance or might encourage you to use parks more often.
I actually had one thing, even though I use the parks and trails frequently. So what I've noticed, not only in like Rock Creek South, but also in Rock Creek North, is just the condition of some of the playground equipment, or like the sidewalks and like plants in the area. Like I know, for example, there is a park above where Summit Townhomes are, and they only recently redid the sidewalk around it, but it had very large cracks in it and could propose safety hazards and that kind of thing. And I know there's plenty of other spaces in Superior like that. So I think taking better care of some of these parks or trails would attract more people.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so I have one other question I want to ask of you all. Many of you have mentioned the pandemic, and this is kind of maybe a yes or no question. So when you think about parks, trails, recreation, open space before the pandemic, and you think about parks, recreation, open space, and trails during the pandemic, have you gained a greater appreciation for parks, open space, and trails as a result of the pandemic? Simple question, yes or no?
Yes, definitely.
I agree, yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, for me as well.
Yes.
A few yeses in the chat room too.
Yeah, I see that. Thank you. So I want you to think about coming, at some point, and, I hope we all have hope that the pandemic at some point is going to end. I'm sure you all know seniors who had their senior year kind of just upended in terms of how they thought it would go. But thinking about Superior and thinking about whether or not, from 5 to 10 years from now, whether or not you, live there or you came back to visit, what is that one thing that you would think would be totally and completely cool if the town did related to its parks and recreation? So I'll give you an example. There's been a lot of conversation about, on and off over the last 5 to 10 years about a recreation center, similar to, maybe not necessarily exactly similar to what Louisville has, but, a recreation center. Is that something, something like that? Or does the town need to do something to, say, improve its swimming pools? Is that something that would be of interest to you? So maybe just an opportunity to think about, if you came back 10 years from now, whether you've lived there or whether you didn't live there and you just came back to visit, you would point to that and say, gosh, I wish they had that when I was a kid. What's that one thing or two things that you really wish Superior had now, but you kind of hope that they have in 10 years from now?
It's kind of like going off like the pool thing. I wish we had like an open hot tub that was open later for like high schoolers or anybody, but catering to high schoolers.
Adding on to that, I would say maybe remodeling the pool area, especially the locker rooms.
Okay.
I I think having a recreation center would be great because it would attract a lot more people to, I would say, stay in Superior and not go to other cities like Louisville or Broomfield for the same services.
Maybe like a library or something.
Okay. I'm writing all these down.
I
Pools,
definitely think. Oh,
remodeling. Go ahead. Sorry.
thank you. I definitely think community rec center would be really nice to have, as I often just have to go up to Louisville or another town, as someone else had already said.
So you all, I just want to point out that you all are probably generally aware of, maybe it's not a recreation center per se, but it's kind of a community center that's going to open up late next spring. Is that something that you're aware of? And if not, I mean, I'm sure that Kevin can provide more information on it to you.
I know that this council had some input into the type of stuff we would like to see in that space. So I think most of us, except for maybe the newer members, should be aware of what's going on there.
Okay. Is that something you think outside, let's assume that the pandemic is gone, is that something that you would, have a tendency to use? Or is it something that you're just more drawn to the great outdoors? Or do you kind of not need to wait and see what it all becomes?
I think I more so need to see what it becomes because, yeah, I mean, the pandemic's really changed how everything's been working or planning out, or new construction projects. But if the pandemic is over with and we have this center, then I think it would be a good space for kids to come to do homework or just hang out a little bit. And also, since the center is close to a Safeway and community park, then it's not like too far away from some hot spots.
Gotcha. Thank you. Anything else around, things that if you came back 10 years from now that you'd think was really cool that you wish that the town had when you were a kid? Because y'all aren't going to be kids in 10 years. You may actually have kids. I've got pools, remodeling of pool area, recreation center, library. Does the town have enough for you to do to keep yourself busy?
No, not necessarily. I think that's why a lot of people go over to Louisville, for example, because they have a lot of different activities or buildings that host different events.
Okay.
I honestly think town of Superior is a really great place to be as a kid. It's just that, especially during the pandemic, a lot of us have had a lot more free time and have noticed that we would like more things to be able to do. But I think overall Superior is really good.
Okay.
There's one point I'd like to make just about Superior. I don't know if this is the correct term, but Superior is more so of a bedroom community, if that makes sense. Like, most of the people live here, or they rent out a space in someone's house or that kind of thing, and then they go to other places to go do different things. So I think part of it is just making a lot of commercial or different spaces in Superior so that not everyone's going out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so one of the catchphrases, and Catherine, I think that's a very astute comment. One of the catchphrases that communities or cities or towns like to try to market to people, whether it be residents or whether it be other folks that might consider moving to Superior, is that, for example, Superior is a place that you sleep, work, play, eat in. And I think, I think some of the drawback of a small town isn't by nature that they don't want to do things. It's just that there's only so much space to do it in. And so that, certainly Louisville and Broomfield and other locations have opportunities because they just have more land available to them. And so your comment about being a bedroom community is simply that, a lot of people live in Superior, 12,000, 13,000 folks, but not a lot of those same folks necessarily work there, don't necessarily play there, and if you and may not even necessarily shop there or go out to eat there. And so that's why I think one of the things that's why we're doing this plan is to understand what are those things specific to Parks and Recreation that Superior needs to offer, that they critically need to offer to keep you playing in Superior as opposed to going elsewhere. So that's kind of the purpose of kind of that dream question, or you wish you had that, when you were a kid kind of thing. I mean, it can be crazy stuff. I mean, it can be simple stuff like I mentioned, power outlets. It could be, we want to have a crazy water park, or we want to have a pool that, is more up to date. It's not obsolete. It's not that, as I call them, hole in the ground pools. Anything simple, anything, I mean, you've mentioned things like you need more tables and chairs and benches. You've mentioned things like a recreation center, library, improving pools, taking care of what you already have in terms of parks, trails, open space. What about programming or events or things along those lines? Is there anything that the town could do that you would want to go to by yourself or with your friends? From a programming perspective that you think is realistic for the town?
I don't know if I'd go to this anymore, but one good thing that we definitely do already is like our tennis program. Like I was a coach there, and I know that it draws a ton of kids from like all over like Superior and Louisville. So that's a nice draw that keeps a lot of the local kids here during the summer.
Great, thank you. Do any of you use the skate park?
I don't personally, but I know a bunch of like people in my grade do.
Okay.
Are you talking about the one up near the South Pool?
It's is it Autry Park?
I don't know what it's called.
I think it's by Bell Flatirons, right?
Yeah,
It
it's
is
down by
Autry
the Bell
Park.
Flatirons.
Yeah, there's a lot of kids from my grade or just from my school who go there to skate or bike. Like there's always people there.
Okay.
My brother actually goes there on a daily basis.
So he's a frequent flyer.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, folks? Well, I mean, I thank you so much. I mean, I know this isn't the easiest format to do this in, but I do appreciate your insight and your comments. They are helpful. You know, I think that there's a lot of consistency in your answers with regards to not just the fact that you use parks, but that you're using them with friends. I think the one thing that, generally speaking, you know, and I don't care whether it was the 1960s or whether it's going to be 2040. You know, kids that are in high school have a tendency to want to hang out and go places to meet up and socialize with friends. And I think that there has to be a recognition that you do have a large percentage of your population that is in, you know, your age bracket, so to speak, that high school age bracket. So I think it's important to recognize that to attract teens to parks, number one, I think they have to be safe. But number two, I also think that they need to have things in them that allow you the opportunities to gather with, you know, it could be a couple of friends, it could be 5 or 6 or 10 friends. And it, you know, whether it's benches and tables or chairs, or even like small group picnic shelters or pavilions that have power outlets in them, Wi-Fi, those kind of things that you all rely on every day to kind of connect with your friends. And, you know, listening to your answer with regards to the pandemic, I didn't hear anybody say no to that question. And I think that, you know, and I don't think any of us know how the pandemic is going to change us going forward. But I would think that, you know, a lot of folks have taken to being outdoors. And I think some of our great concern going into winter is just in your neck of the woods in particular, is that the weather is going to kind of inhibit you all from being able to do the things that you've been able to do since March. So, you know, it's why I think at some point the community center, though I guess we all wish it would come online earlier, but I also know that we all wish it would come online in a non-COVID, non-pandemic world, is going to be really important to kind of supporting what it is that you all said, or some of the reasons that you all said you use parks now, to allow you that same opportunity to do indoors, you know, at some point, you know, post-pandemic. So for those of you who took the survey, I greatly appreciate that input. We do have, you know, at least probably close to 400 surveys completed so far. We'd love to get to 500 over the next couple of days. If you are interested in taking that survey, and I hope that you are, please do so by Sunday. We are going to close the survey out on Sunday, and it won't be available. But you can also follow the Parks, Recreation, Open Space Trails Master Plan on the Shape Superior website. Same website that you're going to go to for you know, for the survey is where we'll be posting a lot of information. And so one of the things I hope is that we have an opportunity to kind of bring back to you the results of that survey and other results, if for no other reason than this isn't just kind of a one and done conversation. It gives you an opportunity as leaders in the community to stay engaged, and it'll give you an opportunity to kind of stay informed and share information with others. So I really appreciate your time. Again, I know it's not an easy format in which to do this in, but your input's exceptionally valuable, and it absolutely will make its way into the plan. So thank you all, and hope you have a great rest of your meeting.
Thank you, Mike, for coming. Before you go, could you give them a little sense of You said the survey's over on Sunday, and then what are the next steps, and when can we hope to see the final plan?
Yeah, we actually, I mean, if it works out from a scheduling perspective, we should be able to be back to you at some point in November or December to be able to present that, if that's something that you're interested in. You know, at the very least, kind of the results of the survey, so to speak. So if we're talking like the first Wednesday, we possibly could be back in front of you on, you know, November 4th at your next meeting, if that's when it is. As far as the overall plan goes, it's something that we will, we're looking to complete early, you know, either late winter, early next spring of next year. So literally within the next 5 or 6 months.
Fantastic. Thanks again, Mike, for being with us.
All right, folks. Hey, have a great night. I appreciate the time. Have a great one.
All right, Jordan.
Thank you, Mark. Next, we have a presentation from Mark Lasis talking about the election and government in general.
All right. How's everybody doing tonight? I circulated a sample ballot. Kevin, do you have the ability to actually project that on the screen? Excellent. If we could actually go to the first page first. Okay, cool. So I was originally supposed to talk about you know, election issues and local government at the last meeting, and we ran out of time, and I'm actually glad that happened, because now I have the opportunity to actually talk to you guys and show you what the ballot's going to look like, because the ballot was not published at the time of our last meeting. So now it is published, and I can kind of just walk you through what, for those of you who are of voting age, are going to be voting, you know, you have the opportunity to kind of take a look at what the ballot's going to look like, because the ballots are going to get mailed out later this week. So I guess my first question for everybody is, who knows what form of government we live under here in the United States?
Democracy.
Okay. Anybody else?
Representative democracy.
Representative democracy. I like that.
Republican democracy.
Okay. So yeah, so we don't live under a true democracy. We live under either a constitutional republic or a representative democracy, and you know, that means that, you know, we've got a country where some decisions, often local, are made by, you know, direct democratic process. And that's one of the things that we're going to be looking at tonight with our ballot. We actually have questions that are going to the voters, amendments to the Constitution, and also propositions that go to the voters, where you actually say yay or nay on those questions. Whereas other decisions are left to democratically elected representatives, which obviously we're going to be going through as well when we look at the ballot. So somebody said we live in a constitutional republic. Do you know why we live under a constitutional republic? It's kind of a trick question. I'll answer it for you. Because we've got a constitution. Does anybody know what the Constitution does?
It's the supreme law of the land.
Okay. What else?
It enumerates what kind of powers our government has.
Okay. What else?
Anything that goes through, like any laws, have to be checked to make sure they're constitutional?
That's right. So basically, it does two things. It establishes the framework for the government, and it then protects basic rights for all Americans, right? So we all know that there are three branches of the federal government, right?
Yeah.
Legislative, executive, and judiciary. Do you know why we have three branches of government?
For checks and balances, balancing so one doesn't get too powerful.
That is a very good answer. More practically and just procedurally, do you know why we have, or how we came to have three branches of government? I'll give you a hint. It's in the Constitution.
Well, each of the different branches was designed to support a different aspect of ruling authority. The legislative branch creates laws and defines them. Then the executive branch enforces said laws, and then the judiciary branch checks those laws against the Constitution. And yeah, between those three, laws are designed, executed, and maintained.
Excellent answer. So the Constitution, I don't know if anybody's actually taken the time to actually read it. It's definitely worth reading. It's aged well, but Article 1 in the Constitution creates the legislature, and then Article 2 creates the executive branch, and Article 3 creates the judiciary. So it's basically like chapters of a book. And that's what the Constitution actually does. It creates them out of thin air. So we all know about the legislature. We've got two houses of Congress, right? We've got the Senate and the House of Representatives. There's 100 senators. Each state has 2 senators, and they serve 6-year terms. Does anyone know who your 2 U.S. senators are here in Colorado?
Is it Gardner and the Goose?
Gardner's one of them.
Okay.
Michael Bennett.
Michael Bennett. There you go. So, Cory Gardner and Michael Bennett. And Cory Gardner is actually up for re-election. So we're going to look at that when we look at the ballot. Michael Bennett, his term, I think he is up for re-election in 2022. Then House of Representatives, there's 435 members of the House. Each state has different numbers of representatives. It's based on population. We have 7 representatives here in Colorado, although that's probably going to change once the census is concluded. We'll probably get an 8th because we've been growing so much. So does anybody know who your congressman is here in Superior?
Joe Neguse, right?
Joe Neguse. So we're in Congressional District 2, CD2. And he was elected for the first time in 2018. So here's a bonus question. Does anyone know who your congressman was before Joe Neguse was elected in 2018? I'll give you a hint. He's now the governor.
Oh, Polis?
Jared Polis. That's right. So Jared Polis was our congressman. He decided not to run for re-election, ran for governor instead, and then Joe Neguse ran for Congress. So we have a system of limited government here in the United States. Does anybody know what that means and what that concept means?
The government doesn't play like a huge role, like in other countries such as China.
Okay, that's a good answer. More specifically about the powers that the federal government has versus the states. Does anybody understand the concept of limited government with regards to that?
So we're considered limited because we have the federal system where the federal government has certain powers vested into it, and then the additional powers are granted to the states. And I believe it's in maybe the 9th or 10th Amendment where it says all powers not listed for the federal government are vested in the state. So therefore, the federal government can't take absolute control over any individual state, although the specifics regarding that in recent times have become blurry on subjects such as marijuana legalization and things like that.
Yeah, no, that was a great answer. So, yeah, so the federal government, the way it's supposed to be structured is there are certain powers that the federal government has, but then everything else is supposed to be left to the states and local governments. So, does anybody know what an exclusive power is of the federal government that the states do not have? There's only a couple.
The right to interstate commerce.
Okay. That's a good one. Anybody else?
The right to raise a military.
That's right. Colorado does not have its own army.
Don't they also regulate like mail?
Yeah, the postal service. That's right. A couple others. Only the federal government can print money, right? So we don't have our own currency here in Colorado. Only the federal government can declare war. Can only create an army and make treaties with other countries, right? We can't make treaties with individual states. So like the United States Constitution, Colorado has its own constitution. We also have a legislature, an executive, who's the governor, and a judiciary. We have 35 Senate districts in the state Senate and 65 House districts. We are in Senate District 16 here in Superior and House District 33. This is going to be a long shot, but does anybody know who your state senator is? Or your state representative? I'd be really impressed if anybody knows this. Okay, well, our state senator is Tammy Story, and our state representative is Matt Gray. And Tammy Story is not on the ballot this year because state senators serve 4-year terms, and she was elected in 2018. And then our state representatives, they serve 2-year terms, just like Congressman Neguse. So our state representative, Matt Gray, is in District 33, and he's up for re-election. So then in addition to state government, we've also got local government, counties like Boulder County. They've got the Boulder County Commissioners. Towns and cities are local governments like here in Superior. We've got the Superior Board of Trustees, which I'm on. We've got a mayor and 6 trustees. And then there are special districts and other specialized types of governmental bodies like school districts, fire districts, water districts, transportation districts like RTD, and the CU Board of Regents. So why does any of this matter? This matters because Tuesday, November 3rd is Election Day. And Election Day is always the first Tuesday in November after November 1st. And I don't know exactly why they structured it that way. I guess they didn't want to have it right after Halloween. Ballots are going to be mailed out on Friday, October 9th. And despite what you've heard in the media, what people are trying to say about mail-in ballots, we've had mail-in ballots here in Colorado since 2014. It is safe and secure. You do not need postage if you drop off your ballot at a ballot box. There's one at Town Hall. And you can actually sign up for a service through the Boulder County Clerk and Recorder called Ballot Track, and they will text you when your ballot is mailed, and they'll text you when they pick it up at the ballot box, so you know that your ballot has been counted. And you can actually register to vote right up until Election Day. You won't be able to mail in your ballot. At that point, you'd have to vote in person. But if you're turning 18 by Election Day, you can vote in this coming election. So let's take a look at this ballot here, it's kind of broken down into a couple different columns. So you'll see first on the left-hand side, those are the federal offices that are up for election. And you'll see the first office is obviously the president. And, you'll see first Joe Biden as a Democratic candidate, and then Donald Trump as a Republican candidate. But then you'll see a number of different other candidates in either unaffiliated or other third parties that are running for president. So I don't know, I haven't counted, but there's probably like 20 different people running for president. You'll note that Kanye West is on the ballot. I know some of you may have heard that he was running for president, but he is on the ballot in Colorado, right there at the bottom. I wouldn't vote for him though, if I were you, but it's your vote, your choice. Then below the presidential race, you'll have the United States Senate race. So that's what we talked about earlier. Cory Gardner is the Republican incumbent. He's running against John Hickenlooper. There's a couple additional third-party candidates who are running in that race. Underneath United States Senate will be the representative for Congress in District 2, and that's Joe Neguse is our incumbent Democratic candidate. The Republican is Charlie Wynn, and then again, there's some additional third parties that are running. You'll notice on this ballot, there are additional races that actually wouldn't appear on your specific ballot if you got it. What they do at the clerk and recorder's office is they create a sample ballot that goes out countywide. And there are parts of Boulder County that are in Congressional District 4 instead of Congressional District 2. And that's more apparent when we look at the state races, because there's a number of different state senators. So when you actually receive your ballot, they know specifically where you live, what precinct you're going to live in. So you're only going to get a ballot that has the actual races that you should be voting for. So those are the federal offices that are going to be up for election this year. In the second column, we've got the state offices. The first race is the CU Regent race for Congressional District 2. Callie Renison is the Democratic candidate. She's running against Dick Murphy, who's the Republican. And then we've got a number of state Senate races, District 17, 18. Again, we're in District 16. So if that race was up for election, we would see that. So when you actually receive your ballot, you won't have a state Senate race to vote in this election cycle. But for example, District 17, where Sonia Jaquez Lewis is the Democratic candidate, that's the Senate district that covers Louisville and Lafayette. And then if you go down to the state representatives, there's a number of them. Again, District 10, 11, 12, 13, and 33. 33 is the district that covers Superior. So the candidates there are Matt Gray and Mindy Quee-Chan. I don't know how to say her name. So those are the state legislative offices that are up for election this year. We've got a district attorney race. Michael Dougherty is running for re-election. Boulder is in the 20th Judicial District, and no Republican has decided to run against him. So he's going to be running uncontested. And then there's a number of judge elections. They're not really judge elections, but they're judicial retention questions. So in Colorado, judges are appointed. We have a merit-based appointment process where we have these independent commissions that are nonpartisan. They're made up of Republicans, Democrats, unaffiliated, and they vet candidates and then make recommendations to the governor. The governor makes an appointment for the judges, and that's supposed to lead to having a judiciary that is qualified and not political. In some states, you have judges that actually run for election and take contributions, which is personally not in my opinion, a very good way of doing things. But what we do here in Colorado is we vote on whether those judges should be retained or not. So if a judge does a terrible job, we have a commission, which is called the Judicial Performance Commission, and they review the track records of judges and then make a recommendation to the voters as to whether or not we should retain those judges. So it's a pretty good system. Most of the judges end up getting retained, but every now and then there's a judge that does something bad and we kick them off the bench. So in the third column, we get into the county offices. And so we've got county commissioner races, and that is for the Boulder County Board of County Commissioners, where there are a couple different districts. They represent different parts of Boulder County, but we elect them countywide. City of Louisville has one, I believe there's like a vacancy on the city council and nobody else ran. So there's just one person running unopposed. And then what you guys have all been waiting for is the Town of Superior trustee race. So we have 3 candidates, or we have 6 candidates who are running for 3 seats. So you have the option to vote for 1, 2, or 3 trustees, and we sit for 4-year terms. So this year, I'm on the ballot. You can see my name right there. Kevin Ryan, he's another one of the current trustees. We're both running for re-election. Sandy Hammerly was the other trustee that was elected with us. She is not running for re-election. So we have at least 1 new person, but potentially 3 new people coming to the board in November. And then underneath the Town of Superior, the local races, we had the ballot measures. And this then has a list of proposed constitutional amendments. So there's Amendment B, Amendment C, Amendments 76, 77, and then on the next page, various propositions. So these are not constitutional amendments. They are just statutory requests of the voters that are asking the voters to either authorize additional taxes or actually enact certain laws. A couple of things that you might have heard about or you might be interested in, and I'm actually interested in hearing SYLC's opinion on this, but Proposition EE is an increase on nicotine and vaping products. It's a tax increase. And tax increases are historically pretty hard to pass statewide, but this one is, specifically directed towards vaping products. So how do you guys feel about that? Don't all speak at once.
I think it's a good thing, honestly, and I think it probably will pass because I just know all my parents and all their friends know how bad vaping is and don't want their kids doing it or anybody else. So I think it'll pass.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
I hope that it passes too, but I think for as long as cigarettes have been around, that vaping's going to be something hard to get past, to have higher taxes on statewide, but you never know.
Good answer. Anyone else? So I don't know if you're interested in actually going through all the ballot questions or propositions. I'm happy to just give a brief overview on them, but obviously it's already 7:37 and I don't want to keep you here all night. I'll run over just the topics. Amendment B, that's the de-Gallagherization ordinance. It's a constitutional amendment, sorry. It is proposed to change the way property taxes are collected in Colorado. Amendment C is to allow charitable gaming licenses. So if various charitable organizations wanted to do, gambling, it would allow them to do so. Amendment 76 would prohibit, it would be a constitutional amendment prohibiting non-citizens from voting. Amendment 77 would increase the maximum amount that you can bet at Colorado casinos. Proposition EE we just talked about is the increased taxes on vaping. Proposition 113 is the National Popular Vote Compact. And what that is there's a whole national push right now to get states to award their electoral college votes to the winner of the popular vote instead of the winner of the election in the particular state. Proposition 114 is the restoration of gray wolves out in Colorado. Proposition 115 is a ban on abortions after 22 weeks. And it actually makes it a criminal penalty for the medical providers to perform them. Proposition 116 is a state income tax reduction. Proposition 117 is a amendment to TABOR, which is the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, which is kind of a technical taxation issue and deals with fees versus taxes. And then Proposition 118, which is, there's a lot of commercials on TV about it, is paid family and medical leave in Colorado. So that's basically what I've got. Voting is really important. It's one of the freedoms that we all enjoy as Americans. People have fought and died for those rights. And in other countries, many people don't even have those rights. So they come to the US in search of those freedoms and liberties. And we don't ask you to do much as a citizen here in the United States. You have to register for selective service when you're 18 if you're male, in case there's a draft, and you have to serve on a jury if you get a jury summons, and you have to pay your taxes, but then you've got your right to vote. So that allows your voice to be heard so you can help shape your government. So any questions for me? Any comments, thoughts?
Just kind of a plug here real quick. For any individuals who will be eligible to vote for this next election, if you haven't registered yet, National Honor Society for Monarch is hosting a drive-by voter registration drive at the Superior Community Park near Williams Field in that parking lot. That'll be on the 17th of October. So yeah, I guess if you're a senior, you still haven't registered, that's a good opportunity. There should be flyers going out on the 027 to just sign up for saying you'll attend. And yeah, hopefully we'll get, if you have any friends who are 18 but haven't registered, I would just say encourage them to do so.
Riley, could you give all that information to Ella so she can put it on our social media?
Yeah.
Cool, that'd be great. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Riley. Anything else? Is anybody going to vote for Kanye? It would be something.
It'd be kind of funny, I can't lie.
Yeah, that would be pretty funny.
Hey, he makes good music. All right, well, that's all I've got. So thanks for paying attention. Hopefully it wasn't too boring. Hope you found it interesting, at least.
Great stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you, Mark. Now we're going to move on to our final agenda item tonight, which is to finalize our work plan for the upcoming year. So I know last time we made a brainstorming list that Kevin is pulling up now that has basically everything we are considering. I think the plan tonight is to try to narrow down that list to what we actually want to focus on over the next year. So I'm going to just go through each of the items really quickly for those of you that are just joining us. So our work plan, we work basically 3 months earlier than a normal calendar year to better align with the school year. So our quote unquote start of the year is October, and then we end in July or in August/September when our seniors leave. And so for our fourth quarter, we're planning on doing some Halloween project. However, I don't think that's going to be happening this year. We have Treats for Troops, which is where we can collect and distribute candy to troops. We have our mask drive to collect and distribute masks and food. We have our Snow Busters and Leaf Busters campaigns, which are to help people in need or help people that are unable to shovel their driveways and potentially rake their leaves. We have a Get Out the Vote. We had plans for a Get Out the Vote campaign. Yeah, I think everyone else can just read. If you have any questions about any items, feel free to ask though.
So, to my understanding, we're not doing the Halloween project anymore, right?
Yes, that is correct. So I think we can take that one off, Kevin, if you want to delete that one. And then Riley, NHS is all good on volunteers, right? So I don't think we would need to be providing any assistance there, right?
Yes, we are all good on volunteers.
Okay, so I think we can take out our Get Out the Vote campaign as well, since NHS is already doing that in a couple of weeks. So any thoughts on things we can get rid of, or if you have a new idea that you really want to see in our work plan, feel free to share that as well.
Are we able to do Treats for Troops as of right now?
We'd have to really be creative. I do know that Dixon Orthodontics is planning on doing their buyback again, and they're willing to partner with us. We just would have to figure out what is the best, safest way to handle the candy, get it all packed up and out, whether that's different shifts, whether, that's outside. I would imagine it would have to be that way. Masks and gloves and all that stuff. So it would just depend on how much effort you guys wanted to put into it and how creative you could be in making it happen.
Another thought on that, are kids even going trick-or-treating this year?
There are some plans for people, some people are planning to do that. The state and the CDC are not recommending it.
Just curious, but have there, like, in cities like Louisville or whatever, has there been any, like, alternatives? Because I know if, like, it's not recommended to do trick-or-treating, then has anything else been proposed?
So yeah, the city of Louisville actually has a alternative craft that they're doing through the library. When you go to the state information, they have a lot of different ideas, tips for people to do. And I've heard just through the grapevine on Facebook and so forth, that there are a lot of different little neighborhood things kind of going on, but it's more sponsored and planned by residents.
Okay.
So personally, feel free to disagree with me, but I don't think treats for troops seems like a feasible option for us this year. I think there'd just be too many logistical challenges, and I don't even think we would end up getting that much candy. I know in the past we've been able to do like 110 plus boxes every year. I'd be surprised if we even top 20 this year. And so I don't know if that's worth our effort of setting up some way of collecting candy in the safest manner possible, and just managing all of the logistics for that kind of thing.
I agree with you because I don't personally think it's safe, and we also don't have schools to like help collect and all that.
I agree. I think it's going to be particularly unfeasible.
All right, is anybody opposed? Okay, go ahead, Amanda.
Oh, I agree with you guys.
Okay, is anyone opposed to removing treats for troops from our work plan? Okay, in that case, I think we can take that off for this year. Any other opinions on what should stay or go?
So I remember this from the last meeting, but I know some of the stuff planned in like the second or third quarter, for example, was gonna have to be like tenacious because we don't know exactly with the pandemic if some events can happen or not. So I guess my question is, are we going to keep like items on our work plan that may be a possibility?
I think we should.
Yeah, go ahead, Jordan.
I think we should, just because we honestly have no clue what the situation with COVID is going to look like by April. And I think there might be some ways that we can alter some of these events to be able to take place in some sort of virtual or socially distant outside setting.
I think that's a good move. And I think because this year is so different that we'll have an opportunity to change the work plan, make amendments to that, send it back to the board and let them know what alternatives we might do instead.
Okay.
I think as far as activities, you all have a good set of things there, even hopeful. I'm interested in the ongoing, if those things there, we can actually make some of those things happen.
Yeah, I think like something that we could get started on soon is doing some kind of mask or food drive as it gets colder. But yeah.
So in terms of tutoring in our ongoing section, I know that National Honor Society is offering tutoring at Monarch High School. I'm not sure if there's a similar program at any of the other schools, but I think for the Monarch community, at least, I think NHS has got tutoring handled.
Yeah, same with Fairview. There's a tutoring thing that they're doing with NHS.
Okay, just real quick. Has anyone like partaking in that at Monarch? Are there things that could be done better? I guess, never mind. If you think of anything, just feel free to send me a GroupMe direct message, because I would love input on that. Don't want to waste time here. Sorry.
For the tutoring though, maybe we could like help middle schools and elementary schools who are also at home.
Yeah, because El Dorado doesn't have something like that.
That's a good point. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, I know that from some of my siblings. They don't have that.
Okay, so I mean, I guess first steps, how would we go about sort of advertising that we, well, are we willing to like supply tutors, or are we just trying to connect people to tutors?
Well, what might be an idea is, I think get like almost having like a list, if that makes sense, of different tutors that people can reach out to. Um, uh, I'm not exactly sure how we'd send that out, some kind of advertisement or put up on social media or like the town website, but something like that, because there's probably, know a couple of people who have done tutoring for kids. So yeah.
So shall we keep it on, or shall we go ahead and delete it and revisit if we need to?
I think going back to Michael's question of marketing, I think if we use the youth newsletter idea to help promote, like if we're going to do the tutoring, to using the newsletter as a means to promote the tutoring would be a good way of doing that.
Okay, so maybe we should focus on the newsletter first.
Yeah, I agree with that, because also if we did like the newsletter, we could, I know a lot of people are looking for volunteer opportunities, and like tutoring could be online right now. So I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to just keep it on for now. Obviously, like Kevin said, we'll likely have a lot of flexibility. So if we later down the line don't think it's super feasible, we can just not include it. But I do think that including it in the newsletter is a good idea.
Are you saying just include it in the newsletter and not as a bullet point? And just clarify.
Well, I think it's a big enough thing that it should be its own bullet. But I think if we are advertising, it should be part of the youth newsletter. So I think, yeah, how you have it written down like now is fine.
Great. Cool. We have 4 minutes left. And so any other big items that we need to add or delete from this work plan?
I don't think we should do leaf busters. It's not something we've done before, and I don't think there's really any demand for it now.
It would take a big effort to get the word out and get a team out. It just depends how many people would be willing to do that, and then we'd have to wait and see how many people jumped on it. For Snow Busters, for instance, we have maybe 20 families, maybe a little bit more, that participate in that program. I don't know how a Leaf Busters would go.
I imagine the demand would be pretty similar. Like the Snowbusters families may want similar services. So I don't know that there would be a lack of demand per se.
Wondering how many of you all would participate in that, maybe by a sign of thumbs up. Do you guys have that capability?
I think I would be interested.
Matthew and I would probably help out.
I would also help.
I could help.
I'd help out in that too.
Okay. Well, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to throw it out. And if we get, 2 people and we help 2 families, great. And if nobody shows up, great. And if we get 20 or 30 families, then we've got some work to do. Thoughts?
So is the gist I'm getting is keep it on there for now?
Yeah, we would need to keep it on, and then we would probably need to announce it almost immediately to try to see if there's some families out there that would need some help.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way just to reach out to all the Snowbuster families?
Totally. Yeah, we could do that too. Cool. So let's keep it on for now, and let's see what happens. Any other ones? Great. Jordan, I think we can go with this first draft and send it to the board as is, and let them know that we'd like the opportunity to modify as COVID changes.
All right, sounds good. On that note, we will see everybody at our November meeting, which I believe is November 4th. That will still be on Zoom. Correct, Kevin?
Correct.
Awesome. And if you have not done so already, please make sure you fill out the Parks and Rec and Open Space survey. I know Kevin posted it a couple times in the chat. Besides that, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn this meeting at 8 o'clock.
A second.
All in favor. This usually gets chaotic.
Aye.
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 All right, good work, everybody. See you all in November.
Thank you. See ya.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.